All right.
Better.
How are you guys? My name is Dr. Sharnael, Wolverton-Sehon. I'm with swiftfire.org, True TV. We are a couple seconds late, literally, and I'm just really excited. There's so much to catch up on. So much to catch up on. And Laura has been extremely busy the last few days, especially she had her all-day meditation thing. I'm going to let her talk about that. For those of you who are just coming on and maybe you haven't even seen Laura or know Laura, this is Laura Eisenhower. She's an old friend and we've had several interviews in the past, but I'm having her back on specifically because we are on a countdown here for the election, and this is a huge crunch down time, literally. But also because on Friday we found out that she was deplatformed, and her and David Rodriguez both. So I'm glad that we pivoted and we're moving in a different direction. But I'm going to have her share all of that and more, just so we know what we can be doing and how to go forward with all of this in the next few days that we're here in game time here. So thank you, Laura, for coming and being here on this very busy day.
Oh gosh, I so appreciate being on. It's great to connect with you.
So today was your meditation day, but before we talk about that, or meditation event, I should say, it's not like you're just not always meditating, but I'm saying you had a huge event today, but talk about what happened on Friday, your version.
Oh yeah, I mean, I lost my Facebook account and I feel like I've been preparing for it for a while. I feel like I've shed a lot of tears, maybe without realizing why I was, in sort of a state of processing a lot of emotional energy, besides the fact that I'm constantly processing larger picture emotional energies, that I would lose almost a decade's worth of pulling together a network, creating private groups and certain pages that had built a pretty big following. I got really comfortable with it. I had posted a lot of pictures, met, so many people, and it's been incredible. But I don't know, when the account got shut down, I wasn't like in shock. I was like, okay. I wasn't like devastated. It was like, all right, I've already processed this and I figured it was going to happen. But I would rather be shut down for speaking truth than limiting my expression just to please a nefarious group of individuals that are behind the creation of it, which is censoring right and left, doesn't want certain things to be, put out. So does that mean I lay low and I just play by their rules? No, I'd rather go out like with fireworks, like, okay, yeah, I was taken down, after I posted proof of what was going on with Biden's laptop, after posting like my feelings on things, because I know I'm going to reach a lot of people. And if they shut me down, if they want to stick with me, I'm going to go to another platform. You can't shut me down. I mean, I'm not devastated by this. And I think on some level I already processed, through the loss, just because of one of the pages. I had 300,000 followers or likes or whatever. And I had been writing since 2010, all sorts of things that literally, if I were to compile it, could have been a book. So people suggested, why don't you download everything? You have this option to download everything and save it. So I tried, and they said, oh, we'll send you an email and, you'll have access to these files. I never got any email. I did an email search, and that was a long time ago when I thought I was going to get shut down like 5 years ago. So I always knew that this was kind of breathing down my neck, especially, knowing that I can't save any of this. I transferred a lot of it to a Google hard drive. So, I mean, I'm not shocked. And I'm a loudmouth. I mean, I'd be surprised if I wasn't shut down. I'm like, I can't believe I'm still here and able to get away with this. And now I'm on Twitter and I'm blasting stuff out. Yeah, I'm not trying to stick around. I'm here for truth. There are backups. I have a website. You can sign up for my newsletter. Anything that might be banned, I will make sure that anybody who's interested will get. So it's not about followers, because a huge percentage of them are literally trolls anyway. I feel like it's like an editing. I like to always leverage adversity. So if I'm rebuilding, those who really, really want to stay aligned, there's ways to find me. But all those that are only sticking around to just give me a hard time and make me, not make me miserable. I'm not going to let a troll do that. But anybody who's sticking around just to harass me, I have no issue really with this, big purge. I feel like my life path has been all about learning how to handle adversity, learning how to handle the death rebirth cycles, learning how to stay fluid and creative in the face of things that would want you to, or a person to, cower away in like isolation and fear. And I refuse that. It's like, it's a mantra I don't even have to say. It's like, it's just how I am. And it's part of the things, it's part of the truth, or part of my greater message is to encourage people to maybe, see it the same way. And I've experienced enough pockets of time where when I lost that perspective, it got really heavy. It got really dark.
Yeah.
And so I like the reminder that, just keep flowing, just keep being you.
Yeah, I thought it was cool because actually the day that it happened, I had called David that morning, David Rodriguez, who you do your show with, and he's a friend thanks to you. And I was talking to him about some other stuff that had come up, and he starts talking to me about how they're bussing in all these people at the border of El Paso and how bad it is, and how they're shoveling all these people in who are sick into hospitals to trade for votes for Biden, and how he knows people in the hospital. He's seen the buses that they locked down the city just to be infiltrated. He's totally freaking out. And I'm like, he was taking a couple days off. He had made an announcement that he was taking a couple days off. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. So we get off the phone, and I was on my way to a funeral, and a few minutes, literally minutes later, he calls back. He's like, oh my God, I'm gone. And I'm like, what do you mean you're gone? He's like, I mean, I'm deplatformed. I was like, what? And yeah, I was shocked. He was shocked. And he's like, I got to call Laura. I got to call Laura. So he gets off the phone. I guess he calls you. I'm still driving. Maybe 5 miles later, he calls me back. Oh my God, Laura's gone too. And I'm like, what? So like, I hear that you, and then I talk to you later, but you and even Alex is gone, like all in the same day. Like, and probably more that we just don't know. I mean, you probably know more. This is all I've heard. And then I was literally, I've had, like last night I dreamed like I was gone too. I woke up and I like looked at my phone to see, I kept looking to see, am I still here? Am I still here? Am I still here? Even when I was driving, I pulled over. I'm like, okay, I'm still here. So, but I'm not saying anything less than you are. And there's so many people who've already been deplatformed. And I actually have gotten strikes, and different people have already, I just got out of Facebook jail today for the second or third time. And one time it was 30 days and blah, 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 blah. So he apparently never got a strike. Did you get any strikes or?
Never been in Facebook jail. I've never gotten a strike. So I think there's certain things that, okay, before it happened, I shared a link where the Chinese whistleblower was saying what they had as far as dirt on Biden. And then it was gone. So I don't know if it was that. The fact that David, Alex, and I got taken down, it could have been, anything that brings up Liz Crokin is going to, wipe you out.
Because you had done that interview like the day before or somewhere around there, right? Or yeah. Wednesday before.
Yeah, I've had a few things wanting to shut stuff down. I had a weird exchange with Facebook one time when both of my accounts were shut down. I retrieved one of them. I had 2 accounts going on. One was under the name Laura Magdalena. The other one was Laura Eisenhower. I had to prove my identity. They had basically shut it all down. They said, oh, maybe you're not who you say you are. And I'm like, okay, here are my IDs. Like, and then I didn't threaten them, but I said, you really want to turn into like a cyborg? Like, I don't know. I just kind of, I don't. And then they exposed all the flaggers and all the reasons why they shut me down after I proved my identity, and they put me back on. And that was probably 3 years ago. And so basically I had been shut down. I lost the first Facebook account that had, like even earlier writing, starting from when Facebook, began. I never was able to recover that account. And the Laura Eisenhower one that everybody got familiar with, was shut down at the same time. Like I said, I retrieved that one, and nothing much has happened until recently. So I can't say it's because of this or because of that. I share stuff that I wouldn't be surprised they, shut down, just like you. It's like it's more like maybe their list is so long that they don't have enough time in the day. They're like, okay, let's break this up because we're dealing with being sued by people like X22 and SGT Report for censoring, and they got their hands full, trying to keep up this demonic agenda that they, lose track of time. And there's only so much that they can do trying to censor everybody, that it's literally like, okay, once a week, every Friday, we'll take the next batch. Maybe they're doing it in alphabetical order. I don't know. They might have some like rhyme or reason behind like the order of it all. But I do feel like once you kind of end up, remember when people used to be like, oh, well, I'm definitely on the blacklist. Once you end up on the list, they got to ration probably like how they go about this, like different waves of purging. And they might categorize it for whatever reason. It doesn't mean like, oh, if you get taken out first, it's because you did something more threatening than the next person that might be taken out. I just think it's they have to have some sort of order or system to it while they are dealing with this much larger picture of how they're being called out, and they have to testify. They have to, face this. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Zuckerberg, but, seeing Jack Dorsey and some of these other CEOs of social media platforms having to, testify, They
didn't look too happy, did they?
They look like angry kids having a temper tantrum. They're so pissed that they're losing. They're like, I'm just going to, get off my platform, because we were using it for social engineering and tracking and monitoring and surveilling, just so we, send that into the AI systems so that we can mess with your life. But these platforms have become, our disclosure, our ability to meet each other, our ability to come together, so it's like this techno war where there's this really dark AI, that is selling itself to, the draconian agenda. And then there's this other part of, being on the internet and being on social media that is empowering, truth. So it's not the technology that's the problem. It's who's running it and who has a certain stake in it that's made a certain kind of agreement that would actually do that kind of thing. So all these other platforms like BitChute or, I mean, there's so many that are not being censored, obviously have connection with tech. I mean, all tech, some might say, will always lead to AI, but there is positive technology. I mean, we got right and left brain. We can't deny that part of ourselves. I mean, it's such a huge part of who we are, but when it's weaponized, when it's used to surveillance us in order to take out the ones that feel like the most and biggest threat. I mean, the next level of it all is that they'll take that information and you walk into a store, they'll be able to profile you and say, oh, that's that person. And okay, let's get that team in and annihilate them. But on the positive end of it, oh, here's that person. The positive AI. This is a part of building the light team. And that's why this election is so significant, because we can't deny that there's a lot of advanced technology on a multidimensional level. As far as the galactics are concerned, there is a lot of advanced technology. Question is, whose hands is it in, and what are they going to do with that information?
Well, I feel like it's kind of where the rubber meets the road. I mean, where the last 4 years have kind of built up to this point. And you and I have talked about some of this with personal things going on, but on a bigger picture, I mean, I think all of us are doing our mini versions of what is really going on in the entire world, which is righteousness has a frequency, truth has a frequency. There's a war on information, a war on vibration, and love looks like a lot of different things, but really love can also look like holding and maintaining a boundary of love and truth and honor and justice for whether it's children or adults or people or just the information of truth alone. And if you cross that line, or you try to cover up, or you try to stop, or you do anything like that to keep it down, or manipulate it in any way, that is sowing bad energy, and that will come back. And so my thought process when I talked to you, David, whoever, I was like, get another one, start over, just get going. Do not let them stop you. You are already there. I think you already made it by the time I even talked to you about that. And David was like, just give me a minute. I have to lick my wounds, and I was like, dude, you're the freaking champ. Like, get up, use this against them. Win at their own game. Like, you're not a quitter. Like, this is for real, and don't let anything stop you. The truth always wins. And you're going to get 1 billion more followers or more people who are seeing you and hearing truth, which is the most important thing, hearing truth and engaging and participating in truth because of this, because they are the ones who brought this on and will come back to bite them. You cannot mess with this. You cannot mess with energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're in duality, and basically any kind of duality or polarity needs to come together. So if we can't accept these blows, then we're basically staying stuck in that loop, that feedback loop that, keeps us in this experience. And Dave is absolutely beyond it. It was definitely, his initial reaction. And I already had that kind of reaction a bit ago, just because,
you were like that at the beginning of the month. Because
I saw enough of it, and I figured, I was always asking to be deplatformed. I'm like, well,
they had all the changes, and they told us all these changes are going to happen. And it was funny because I would watch you post, and you were like, I'm still here. Nothing's happened. I'm still here. Okay, I guess I'm good.
I don't even care. I mean, what's the big deal with that? I mean, we're moving into higher abilities where we can telepath with each other, where we're really a part of this, greater collective consciousness. And I'm fine to break up with a social media platform that supports the darkest of agendas. And that's why I was like, well, because I figure, because so many of my friends and colleagues are being deplatformed, that I just want to go in a fate of glory. Let me just say, and I'm doing that with Twitter right now. I mean, I post constantly, and it's just as crazy as the stuff I post on Facebook. And it's not looking to be in hatred. It's looking to create transformation. And so I did a video earlier, I haven't posted it yet, where those that are so embedded or infiltrated by these darker parasitic forces, they can't handle the detoxing and the awakening process. And it threatens them so much because of whatever deals they made or whatever ideologies that they mistakenly stepped into and thought it was for whatever right reason or self-serving reason, more likely. It's like, this is a part of it. This is where the lines are being drawn. If this platform can't handle free speech, then it's similar to going to a big stadium filled with thousands of people, being like, oh, well, there's thousands of people, so this is the cool place to be because you'll meet more people. But you know what? It's not worth it if the thing that's running it is corrupt. I'd rather go to a circle of 10 people in a pure space and foundation where we do the real conversation. So
amazing analogy. I love that analogy. That is awesome.
Yeah, and then it begins to grow. It begins to draw in people that are like, oh, that feels better. That feels clearer. I did create a backup account, because I have so many contacts, on Facebook. That's probably the biggest platform I've ever had out of everything. Yeah, I mean, I'm an etch-a-sketch artist, right? So I do etch-a-sketch drawings, and it might drop and fall, and then all of a sudden the sands all of a sudden it's a blank screen, and I have to let go of that. It's like, I would have liked it on the wall. I would have liked to, but it's sort of like what I'm learning and realizing along the way is you create something, it's okay to let it go. It doesn't mean it disappears. It just goes into another dimension. Same thing when we transition out of the physical plane or lose loved ones. It enters a different dimension, but it still is creative. It's still going to be true to itself. What they're trying to do is, okay, you can only do this, play by the rules and fear death. And then we own you, and we're literally taking your life force. Once we drop the fear of death And once we drop the fear of, you know, or the reaction to any kind of betrayal or injustice, and we remain sovereign, then we really piss them off, because they're like, man, why can't we just own her?
Why can't we get a reaction? Why isn't she being triggered? What's happening? She's not the same person she was.
Yeah, you should be pissed and hating us and hating everybody. It's like, yeah, I mean, we're going to have our reactions, we're going to have our feelings, but what is the larger picture saying? We're alchemists, you know? And it's like, I feel really strong in my compassion and forgiveness. However they compromise themselves is, you know, I feel sad for it. But I also thank these challenges because they keep pushing us into our greater potential. There's a big difference between victim consciousness and spirit warrior path. You know, victim consciousness is everybody's out to get me and I'm a victim to everything and blah, blah, blah. But then there's this strength that we can carry where you can't defeat me. There is no end. There is no true death without some kind of rebirth or transformation. And, you know, everything that we might lose, if we can see a gateway opening us up to the next level of how we can share, then we won't be mourning whatever we lost. Doesn't mean that there isn't a period where we do mourn, but what they're holding on to or hoping for is that, oh, they'll be isolated. Now they've lost all connection. Oh, they're defeated. They're giving up. That's what they want. They know that they can't stop ascension, but they're wanting to make us as miserable as possible in the process of us claiming, you know, this frequency, this truth of what we're all made of. So we can make it long and drawn out struggle and battle to delay the inevitable, or we can disengage from the struggle. And I'm realizing that more and more. Where am I engaging in the struggle? Where I'm trying to fight them? Why don't I just free myself from them completely and see these as blessings in disguise, really?
Yes, like the lifeguard who tries to go save the person who's drowning, versus like if they would just relax, they could be saved and brought to shore. But when you're, you know, when Source is trying to help us and we're all just like flailing around, and it's just like, you know what, God's inside, God's in control, we are sovereign, only God touches me, only God hears me, only God sees me. You know, I think that is a huge key. And earlier last year, I was going through some personal stuff, and you kept talking about laying down the law of love, and how, and I don't think you used the words, but you said something along the lines of sometimes laying down the boundaries or the law isn't the fun thing, it won't be the fun thing, but it's the necessary thing. And that has stuck with me and this is before the whole everything started. I mean, I literally keep thinking when anything happens or pops up, it's like, no, this is love too. This is love too, to stand up and to speak out and to lay down the boundary and to keep the boundary and to, you know, do whatever it takes to, because freedom, everyone keeps talking about like, oh, freedom, freedom, freedom. But it's the home of the free and the brave. And part of freedom is standing up and being brave and being active in this, and not just waiting for someone else to do it, or hoping, you know, I don't know, Jesus comes back or the angels come or the IT, you know, AI people or the UFOs come and get us or what, you know. It's like we have to be the ones who are making those choices and using our flesh and our bones to actually make the choices and the actions.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I just did a video that I haven't posted yet just about what you just said. If you don't like what you're seeing, then you have just gotten in touch with your calling and your mission. Then get up and do it. Do it yourself. I mean, if you're going to stand up and hold yourself accountable to make the world a better place, the best way to do it is to do it and be it. Don't expect somebody else to do it. But the thing is, once there's an agreement to be on a greater team of, you know, light or a part of the greater flow of transformation, where we hold love and mutual respect for one another so that we can do what we're called to do, we can't lay it all on that person and just sit back. They might not have the full picture, but if they did, they probably spread themselves too thin. We're not in those dimensions yet where, you know, we're, you know, fully, whole. Doesn't mean we aren't in our consciousness, but we all have different roles and different things to play in order to achieve this goal. And yeah, I mean, it's an incredible breakthrough. And I don't know what I said back then that kind of made a difference, but no, I'm feeling really encouraged, by everything. And the fact that we know a lot about what might potentially happen before it happens doesn't mean we have to drop into fear. It's just sometimes the preparedness helps to collapse timelines. The fact that you know that it might happen doesn't mean you're energizing and manifesting. It means that you're starting to process the fact that it might happen to the point where you might go through the life lesson or growth period in order to counteract it before it needs to show up and actually threaten your livelihood. I mean, that's kind of how I got out of every struggle, is I would kind of look ahead, like where could this possibly go? And what is the worst case scenario? Can I work with that worst case scenario instead of like be all light and love and oblivious or thinking I'm invincible and nothing can touch me? No, I'd rather see what is the worst thing that could happen. And in that space of having that hindsight or not hindsight, but that forethought, that I would be able to find a sense of security in the face of the worst possible outcome. And I feel like I did this with, having social media shut down. That, I mean, is it really a big deal? No. But you were saying something about something that I shared. I didn't quite catch, like.
You were talking about, it was a personal issue that I was going through that you were talking to me about me having to be the one to lay the law down, that was a season for me. You had felt
boundaries and stuff,
that I was in a season of having to lay the law down, and how it may not be fun, but it was necessary because it would change the whole path of a lot of different people coming forward. And yeah, and I held on to that when the choices would come before me, and I had the choice to either absolutely stick with what I really felt in my heart was the right thing for love for everybody, even though I might be looked as the unpopular one. I would still do it because I would have that in the back of my mind with what you said. Yeah,
that's the most important thing at the end of the day. And the indoctrination and the programmings have made it, how can I be like loved and adored? It's been about the world of appearances, and this is what like targeted self-worth is all about. And the school systems have really like been such a massive part of it. Like, if you get this straight A's and if you do this and you do that, you're the successful person in life, and you're the ones that we want to reward. But yeah, if you're like unable to sit still in class, if you're unable to regurgitate the information that we're driving into you, oh, you're a failure. I mean, the word F in and of itself is saying you lose, you fail. But that might be a hidden genius. That might be like the most incredible artist. That might be an incredible starseed that's sitting there that is being absolutely unacknowledged. So, getting over those kind of stigmas that so many of us have survived and gone through, I mean, that's minor compared to the other stuff that we've gone through. Like, hello, with the secret space prisons and stuff. But
it was going back to what you said about thinking of the worst case scenario. So many times too, there's a guy named Robert Tennyson Stevens, who I would love for you to meet one day, but we've been friends for years, and he talks a lot about conscious language and outcome mapping and visualization and all that kind of stuff. And when I would be worried or freaked out about something, he would say, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I would come up with something that could happen, and he'd say, no, worse than that. And I would come up with something else, and he'd go, no, there's something worse that could happen. And I would be like, I would die. And then he'd be like, okay, so then what? What would happen if you died? And I'd be like, nothing. That would probably be awesome. And then so it's like, okay, so you can follow all the way down. And even if all the bad things happen, it's like, and you still are okay with it, then
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I mean. Some people are like, when I process the worst case scenario, they're like, oh, you're just being all fear-based. I'm like, no, this is a part of being prepared. I mean, what I love about my background in wilderness expedition leadership is that's how you have to think, is you have to be able to handle the storms and the poisonous creatures and the discord that might erupt, and know in those moments that you can handle it. instead of being oblivious. Oh, the sun's always going to shine. Everybody's going to get along. Oh, we'll only run into butterflies instead of like poisonous snakes. And you have to be able to face that part of nature and reality to begin to hold a vibration that can still harmonize with it, even if it threatens your very existence. So I noticed in some of the expeditions that I was on that it was like, oh, there's a rattlesnake, no big deal. And it was like, they were wrapped around our vegetable bags. They were all over the place. There was one place that we landed where it was like Rattlesnake Island, like everywhere. All you could hear was the rattler. And one of the women that we were hiking with, we were on like hairpin turns in desert, no water really, except for little pools that we would find, and we would purify the water. But you know, we're all just like chapped lips. We're exhausted with our freaking huge packs. And it was a full day. None of the instructors were there. They were kind of keeping us on our own that day. And we get to the camp and she takes her hat off and a scorpion crawls out. And that whole day of a 15-mile hike or more, that scorpion did not sting her. It was sitting at the top of her hat. It just had found this. So it was like jaw-dropping to all of us. I don't think we knew how to process that. And she was just in shock. She was like, because if she had gotten stung and we didn't have any instructors around, we didn't really have, you know, anything to handle it. I mean, and this is the thing. It's about resonance and harmonizing and realizing that there is this sort of dark energy and there is all this benevolent energy. But when we can join it and meet sort of in that center point of union or that 0 point place, you know, the predator is not, you know, necessarily the enemy, but in the human sphere, it's a little bit different. And if we don't have boundaries to protect ourselves, when we don't know when to draw the line, then kindness is a weak form of love. Kindness is blindness. Yeah. We need to have love, be tough love and armor us, you know, where we're doing it for the right reasons. We're doing it for the sake of, you know, protection, or we're speaking truth for the sake of trying to wake up the human race. It's not to challenge you to the point of creating, you know, war or hatred. Yeah. It's like, when I see people that are literally consenting to the worst and darkest of agendas, are they my enemy? No, I don't want to fall into that pit. You know, you guys might support rioting and looting and all the worst of the worst sort of scenarios because you're so embedded in all of it. And I have to have my boundaries, and I might say it like it is, but do I hate you? No, I'm freaking worried about you. And it almost brings me into a space of my call to be a loving person in these times, you know, takes a new step up. I'm not trying to empower duality. I just, you know, only pray that you can unhook from, you know, the parasitic forces that are absolutely assimilating you into AI and the lowest level of morality and the lowest level of the personality matrix, which is basically victim consciousness and the blame game, shame game, where literally they're empowered by their own victimization of how screwed up the world is without seeing who the dark players are that have created that scenario. So they're just wanting to murder and take down those that might support Trump. I mean, some of the possibilities that might happen from certain authors, and I'll just name it, Mike Adams from Natural News. I mean, he really mapped it out. This is what these people are capable of if they lose the election. They might go door to door and start to assassinate people for being Trump supporters. And that's no longer humanity. That's a dark alien agenda that has possessed them completely and totally. And they are literally no longer in possession of anything that represents what true humans are capable of carrying, which is forgiveness, love, compassion, integrity, and service to others. You know, nobody's against the other side. It's not about right or left or politics. It's about good versus evil. It's about
life versus
dark
death.
Cabal, yeah, and New World Order versus organic ascension. And it's like, if we seem intense, it's because we care so much and we love you so much. We don't want to see you fall into the black goo swamp. You know, it's not because we worship Trump. It's not because we're hardcore Republicans. Somebody like me, and I know you can relate, I've never freaking voted. I've never identified with any particular party. I always knew that both sides were owned. And I don't want to, I know it's close to election, so here I am ranting about this. But there's a vast difference between these two characters. And I just, it blows me away. And it reminds me of how intense this infection, can go, where they're judging Trump's character and his past. But it's no big deal that there's a Biden laptop with child porn and a proof that he is tied into the Communist Party of China. Okay, that doesn't make any sense at all. So I feel like a tough love, not to create like division, but it's like when you see somebody about to fall off the face of a cliff, you're going to scream and holler, please, but it shouldn't be confused with hatred or judgment. It's just like, anyway, go ahead. I got to turn my camera off for 2 seconds, but I'm still here. I got to just use the restroom. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with what she's saying. And I think some of you guys, I'm seeing some of your comments here talking about sociopaths and narcissistic behavior. For me, those of you who aren't familiar, I actually started having dreams about Donald Trump in 2007. And this is back before anything was on the radar, at least for me, to know that he had anything to do with politics or that he was going to do anything with politics. I definitely hadn't voted. So, I just had over and over, I've had, I think, 4 or 5 dreams now with mostly him, one with Ivanka. And, and I've shared that with you before, Laura. And I really feel like one day I will meet him. And I know you will for sure. And I know that recently you did a video specifically to him. Tell us a little bit about that video.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got a very alarming message. About 80% of it didn't surprise me. I was kind of already aware of it, but it really brought up specifics about something that even Trump himself might be confused about or might agree to. And that's the problem. I mean, Eisenhower dealt with this, where he was duped. Somebody acted like his ally or friend, and then they pulled a fast one on him. And all of a sudden it's like, what did I just agree to? What's going on? So I've always wanted to meet him, and I was supposed to meet him with the unveiling of the Eisenhower Memorial. But when this message came to me, I'm like, the way it was expressed was Trump might not know about this. And if we see him supporting this particular agenda, he might either be misinformed, he might be complicit, he might be the other side of the same coin. Like the first one, he might not be in the know at all. So that first part of it, he might not be in the know at all. I'm like, well, we got to get this message to him. And I'm sure other people have tried to get the message to him. And I'm like, well, I mean, I want to be one of those people that try and get the message to him. I personally don't feel like he's the same side or the other side of the same coin. I don't feel like he's complicit. I just did a video today, I haven't published yet, where I did his chart. And literally when I open up his astrological chart, I'm just taken aback. I'm just like, holy smokes, which is better than dropping an F-bomb. I'm working on it, right? Smokes.
I'm impressed.
Holy smokes. Thanks. I'm blown away. I mean, and he's got his North Node conjunct his sun sign and Uranus in the sign of Gemini. The transiting North Node is conjunct his natal North Node. The North Node has to do with stepping into your destiny, integrating what's important for you to do on a soul level. It takes us out of the personality matrix. Nobody can really get in touch with the North Node and still be in their ego. It's usually when life kicks your ass enough, you're like, okay, well, this is what I'm really here to do. But what's crazy is his sun sign is next to the North Node, and so is Uranus. But his chart also shows all these things that he was noticing, being a powerful person that was able to manifest his dreams and visions and build huge empires and, take huge risks, even if it meant he was going to be in debt, go through the tragedies of being in love and falling out of love. And, we've all been there and done that. It's amazing. I mean, it tells his whole story, which astro charts do. But the North Node takes a little bit of time. It doesn't normally start to activate until our 40s, where we really start to step into it. So the person that he was a partial person. It was more like not his full self at all. It was part of his life experience to get to know things, to be able to see through things. But okay, anybody that's stepping into their north node when there's personal planets around it, like a sun sign, it means that it's almost like soul retrieval. Like he's stepping into his true essence. Before that, he was having a human experience, just more on an ego level. Okay, I'm able to do this, and my dad, Fred Trump, did this, and it's inspiring me to, create something, and take it to the next level. And then he realizes, oh wow, I'm surrounded by really corrupt people and child trafficking rings, and wow, there's pedophilia. I mean, like, even though he was in those circles, he didn't know fully and completely. And maybe he was compromised along the way. I'm not saying, he wasn't, but can we see who the person is today instead of who they used to be? I mean, if Biden was like standing for our constitutional rights and our ability to choose how we deal with a so-called virus, and give us the freedoms that we need, and don't overly push like being imprisoned in our homes and being masked. I mean, Trump is like the opposite. And okay, so I guess my point is,
it wouldn't matter what he was doing in his past if Biden was suddenly like a good guy. Some of this other stuff.
He was like, I support the American dream, that you can have a vision or dream and you can create it. When there's a so-called virus happening, that we're not going to mandate something and force you to do something and create this whole like social disruption where you're going to be made fun of and shamed for it. And obviously the news is connected, or the mainstream news supports these sort of like agendas where, Trump has been they've not been in support of him at all. So obviously he's not owned. He was somebody who said, I don't like what I'm seeing and I'm going to do something about it. And like we were talking about before, if you don't like what you're seeing, then you are starting to get in touch with your inner calling and mission, because we all need to step up to the plate and not put it all on one person. But his chart is mind-blowing. It shows a lot of injuries to his spiritual energies. And it like where his heart has been broken, because he's actually a really loyal friend, loyal father, and loyal person. And it just shows that like he started to kind of get a clue. Like, I thought it was the American dream to be the richest person and just be able to manifest wealth. Like, sure, that's great, as long as it's not like Illuminati money and it's not connected to trafficking rings. If you're able to do that, you're showing the rest of ourselves that, you can be super abundant. But then it bit him in the ass, because he realized, money didn't buy me happiness. It didn't mean that I was going to have happy partners. It didn't mean that it was going to make the world a better place. So he turned that wealth into the wealth of integrity, being connected with the power of his own, spirit and his true calling, because the North Node is our true calling, what we need to step into. And it's next to his sun sign. That's that's our creative essence. So he found himself. He didn't just wake up. He retrieved something. We all have amnesia when we're born. We forget maybe who we were in past lives. We get caught up in whatever we're encouraged to do to feed that need for self-worth. He broke that because he saw through it. And he tried to get the cops involved, and then became a big, big force in taking down Jeffrey Epstein. The Uranus part of it, that is a planet that nobody has control over. It connects with our higher self and divine source. It connects with the unified field, 0 point energy. So the fact that that's next to his North Node and sun sign means that he went through all these different extremes and all these different crises to like awaken to his destiny. He kept talking about wanting to run for president like years before he actually ran. He actually tried to run, and he was going to be a part of the Reform Party or the Reformation Party. Anyway, he saw so many extremes, and that's how Uranus is. It's the crises and upheavals that lead to great awakening. It takes us into the extremes of polarity, of negative and positive, until we allow them to integrate to find that 0 point. That's what Uranus does, whether we like it or not. So the fact that that's next to his North Node and sun sign, without any challenging aspects or afflictions, with the fact that it connects with the Neptune, Jupiter, Chiron energy in a harmonious way, that makes a challenging aspect to Venus and Saturn in the sign of Cancer in his 11th house that has to do with friends and networking. He took heartbreak and challenge and disappointment and did something about it. He said, you know what? I'm not going to be a victim to this. I'm not going to be compromised by this. I'm not going to stand for this. And he freaking won presidency. That is the power of God sources, and the cabal, and the deep state has leveraged our siphoned energy to maintain power. And we're on this cusp and crossroads of we've all had enough. In a way, we manifested this kind of leader because so many people in the collective feels exactly the same way. That just want, and that's what makes him so different. And the thing is, the victory that we attain is not a victory that is in his bank account or in his ego. It shows with the transits that he's not going to feel happy and fulfilled or healed from, the spiritual wounds or the disappointments and the kind of people he was dealing with and that were in his circles. He's not going to get over that until he sees that we've taken it all down. Like literally, he is merged with the Great Awakening in ways that people don't quite realize. And I've always been, kind of skeptical and on the fence until I really tuned into his vibration. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an astrologer. I got to look up his chart. I look at his chart and I'm like, and I've read thousands of charts. I'm not going to BS anybody. I have no political affiliation. I have no agenda. When I look at it, it's like, there's no astrologer in the world that could say that this person is leading us into anything but liberation of humanity.
You just looked it up like recently?
I looked it up a while ago and I was going to do a video sooner. I did a video tonight, but like my self-criticism is like, I could have done better. So it's like, post it, Laura. And my family's like, you got to post it. I'm like, oh no, I could have done a lot better.
And for the record, there's all kinds of comments going, what is she saying? What does this mean? What is the node? But I don't know the answers to those questions.
Well, I did say what the node was. I said that represents what we're here to integrate. So the node is not a planet. You got the south node, which is the energy signature you were born with. And then there's the north node, which is what you're here to integrate. Because on a soul level, when we start to work in the soul matrix, we know we have to integrate polarity to advance ourselves. If we're too polarized, we're missing a huge part of all that we are. That's why we have junk DNA. Junk DNA wouldn't be junk if we were able to integrate polarity. When we integrate polarity, we switch on all these dormant levels of ourselves. And that's why alchemical union and the balance of the masculine and feminine are such a big part of it. And why, things like the Saturn moon matrix, patriarchal agendas, and any agenda to create division or, have been what we've been dealing with for such a long time, because it keeps reinforcing imbalance, which makes us a breeding ground for archons. So the astrological chart is going to show the planetary aspects, what is your sun, moon, Jupiter, all the planets. But then it's like, oh, what's this south and north node thing? They aren't planets. What is that? Symbolically, it's the Ouroboros, the serpent biting its tail. And it shows that when we're in a soul matrix, there's a completely different set of cosmic and natural law integration that's going on, where we like step away from who we should be in the world, how we should get success, how we should like feed our self-worth, what it means to be successful, what it means to, be a failure. It's like, wait a second, there's way more to the picture. So the south and north node, which anybody can look up, your south node is the energy signature you came in with, and it might represent the patterning of maybe the last 5 lifetimes. It's not going to, give you the full Akashic record, but it'll at least give you like, what was the last thing that left a mark on your soul that you needed to come in and like address it. Some of it's super challenging. Some of it is just a lot of like support and like positive aspects. Some of it is, maybe all your personal planets are connected to the south node where you're still carrying on something and you were like basically the same person you're going to be. Well, you're basically the same person you were in a past life to the person you're going to be today, but maybe that's keeping you stuck because you need to step into that north node and it might make it difficult. And then sometimes there's a lot of planets surrounding the north node, which really gives a person a push into their own evolutionary journey. Like, oh, well, all this energy is connected to this north node. Almost the past is like irrelevant. I mean, every single chart is different. The north node is like the North Star. It's like the guiding principle. It's like the arrow marker at the beginning of a trailhead, that says for your greatest soul development, you should go this way. So if it's for like, for example, with Trump in the energy of Gemini next to his sun and Uranus, his soul trajectory has been calling him to truth, awakening, and helping to liberate the human race, because it's actually sitting in his 10th house. The 10th house is the house of Saturn. It has to do with life path, purpose, career path more. And so when we look at like the compromised Saturn, as far as career path, a lot of it is working for organizations and corporations that aren't looking out for the human race. It ends up becoming a player in the dark, agenda of, oh, well, you can be a doctor, but once you kind of wake up to some of the limitations in the medical industry, you're going to be fired because we're going to make you administer vaccines. We're going to make you administer chemotherapy. You're not allowed to be alternative or you're going to be fired, and some people are afraid to lose that paycheck, but they're still very skilled. They still have their heart in the right place. So, when somebody can make a choice to step away from the old paradigm Saturn energy, which is very much about how can we sort of dupe humans so that we can, exploit them, make money from them. Trump's chart with the Sun, North Node, and Uranus is to break down that paradigm. And he actually, that's what his chart shows. His greater destiny is to collapse that old system and begin to bring in all the different higher energies, higher technologies, based in the synchronicities that are appropriate in the speed of time in which they flow to help to advance the human race. So it's not going to happen overnight. So when people are pissed by some of his policies, it's like, okay, we can't just go from A to B like that. There's stepping stones, lily pads we have to, hop on in order to help people to make that transition. It doesn't mean, though, he has it all figured out, because that's not how Uranus works. Uranus is spontaneous downloads, those epiphanies that you have, that you get information that you need to have when you need to have it most. But you're not going to be able to reveal it all. But he's the kind of person that's aligned with those kind of downloads that, in the face of things like we've dealt with the virus, he, as much as people criticize him, do you see what he did? Maybe he didn't, but now he's jumping to every rally under the sun with more energy than you can imagine. Like, oh, that doesn't seem like somebody who got compromised by coronavirus and somebody's about to try and lock us down and mask us when he's living proof at the age of 75 that he's going to run all over the country and have more energy than we've ever seen. So maybe we should change our belief systems about this pandemic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say too, is like the flow of him just being able to come up with information and just speak. When I watch him, and I've seen him at one of the rallies, he doesn't use notes, by the way. He doesn't use prompters. Just recently, if you've noticed, he started using the presentation stuff in the back to kind of show what Joe has said, where it's been inconsistent, or what other people have said that it's been inconsistent. But he speaks from the heart because that's who he is and what he is. Just similar. I was just going to say something to you. When you start and you turn on in that mode, that gear that you just got in a while ago, I just sit back and smile, because it's like you left and someone else just popped in and you just go. Now you can also sit here and talk. I talk to you not all the time, but when I do talk to you, sometimes we're not talking about any of the things that you just said, but there is something that I've seen in you when we're together, or on a couple times we've been together, or on the phone or on video, and you can watch when that switch goes on, and then all of a sudden you're like, and this and this and this, and it's just, and he's got the same, I guess we can all get to that point where we just are, instead of having to think of what to say, we're just fluent in truth and what our heart is actually speaking, and being authentic and everything. I don't use notes either. I don't know if I ever really did. And I'm not saying that I'm not a researcher and that I don't look up to make sure, and that I fact check, and, I'm a geek with science. So I do all that. But then when it comes to speaking what I'm passionate about, and what you're passionate about, what he's passionate about, it's just, okay, just put me on, I'm ready, let's go. And I just share. And, I think that's where he's been able to do 14 rallies in a week, and flying to different places. I know you've traveled crazy amounts, and I did for 17 years, sometimes being in multiple states in a day. And it is, I was in my 20s and 30s doing that stuff. Was not what I was going to say, but packing and just having to be somewhere, and maybe not always eating right, and because you're rushed, and then just the details of hotels and who's going to be there and who's going to pick you up. There's a lot, but then to be ready to go on and to speak and he's got what I think it's 58,000 people at one of his rallies just the other day and 30,000 here. And I mean, you could tell he's not tired. You could tell he lives off of it. It's like energizing him like a battery.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you're really, really connected to spirit, and this is what his chart makes very clear. Sun, North Node, Uranus. That's huge. Huge. That's major. That constantly re-energizes a person because you're connected to that regenerative power of nature and that high like frequency of light energy. And that's what we're really capable of as humans, that we can upgrade ourselves to, that point. I'm sure he's, got some of his down days in this and that, but his greater destiny is to, remind people not only of, what we're capable of and what he stands for as far as protecting the American dream versus like New World Order. Because that's the truth of cosmic and natural law of what we deserve as humans. It's our birthright. I mean, of course that's going to keep him going because it's truth. Truth is energizing. Truth is sustaining, and truth is grounding. And we get that electrical and magnetic energy flow going through our systems. It begins to knock out all this BS. And his chart shows that he is able to step into that. That is his greater destiny. And we all have that. Everybody does. Everybody has access to it. When you look at the other side and their tactics, it's ritual abuse. It's poisoning our waters, our food sources, spraying our skies because it needs to steal. It needs to harvest. It needs to manipulate. It has no power except for the power that we give it. Whereas this kind of power is the true essence of what it means to be truly connected with your higher self and to source energy. And it doesn't seek like a hierarchy system. It doesn't really put itself above. And that's why he's saying, I don't answer to them. I answer to you because, he's supporting that human potential. And my mission has always been about this. The reason, I knew to step away from being recruited to go off planet. It's like, I'm not going to go on that timeline. I believe in the power of the human spirit. It wasn't about me. I believe in the power of the human spirit. So, the strength that I've been given to be able to continue on my mission, regardless of the attacks, regardless of all the BS, is because it's an acknowledgement of these greater universal forces, cosmic and natural law, the things that are a God-given right to be able to experience and integrate. And his greater destiny is to step into that. But everybody's holding on to, whatever the MSM, the mainstream fake news is telling them, or they're holding on to like something taken out of context or some quote, some stupid quote that he might have said, or some accusation that has never been proven.
Yeah.
All the people that tried to find dirt on him couldn't find dirt on him. So, the fact that this is his greater destiny shields him from letting that like suck him down or defeat him, because it's not truth. Whereas if you see Biden challenged at a rally or a meeting and somebody says, are you going to answer to like what's going on with the laptop? He literally, then there's videos of this. He will literally scream at that person and attack them. So, usually when you have to attack, you might not be in your truth. You might be hiding something. Sometimes though, people get loud when they need to defend themselves for the right reason. So I'm not saying that, there's some theory or philosophy that covers every situation, but you could just tell by the energy. I can tell you as an astrologer, Sun, North Node, Uranus, without any afflictions in the 10th house, with the current North Node conjunct his North Node, the light is shining on him right now to play this role. And it doesn't make him higher or a savior. It doesn't mean that he needs to be put on that status, but it's a huge reminder that when we step into that truth frequency, our leadership in the world is not just leadership, it's leading by example, and it's helping everybody else step up to the plate. So if you're supporting the American dream, it means you're supporting other people to have the freedom to manifest their dreams. You're holding space for people to step into their mission. Whereas this other one is, let's mask ourselves. Let's be locked like prisoners inside our own home because we fear, because we live in fear. That doesn't even sound liberal or democratic. I don't even know why they're carrying these labels. It's just like, you guys, I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yes. Yep. Well, Tell us where we can find you. You just started a new Facebook page. Tell us why you came up with that name. What is that about?
Oh, I mean, this was an account I created a long time ago. In the event that I might be deplatformed, because I had been deplatformed many years ago. And like I said, I had that altercation with the Facebook people. I proved my identity because back then it wasn't about censorship, because you're trying to, share information they want to censor, like, Biden laptop stuff, which is why they're doing it now. Back then, I don't know, for whatever reason, well, it was through this person that like flagged my account, said I was an imposter, and I proved my identity. So I created that, but the name came to me like years before. And I said, do I have any other name besides Laura? Everybody's got these spiritual names. Maybe I have one. It wasn't like necessarily something I was going to change my name into, but I was like, maybe I have one. And I wouldn't say that this is the only name I feel other names, but they're almost too lofty. Because it's not ego. So I'm very careful. Like, how some people are like, oh, I'm the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, or I'm Mary Magdalene or Sophia. It's like, I always identify with those energies, but I'm not going to say like, that's my name. That's bullshit. These are universal energies we all have access to. And, I definitely feel like I'm in tune with it. I'm in oneness with it. I'm in service to it, but I'm not going to name myself that. My father did give me the middle name Magdalene, but that, it's like, we're part of the greater Magdalene flame, like you are, and that was nice that like he inserted that, like it helped, as like, oh, that vibration of that name, I totally relate to. So, I'm very careful with the name part of it, but I was like, but do I have another name besides Laura? And, nothing was really coming through. And then all of a sudden it's like Sitara. I'm like, Sitara? So I'm like, I kind of like the ring of that. And I looked it up and it said like morning star, and other places like Sanskrit for, Venus, or morning and evening star. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, I have a chart, or my astro chart is predominantly Venus and Pluto. And so I relate to that archetype. And so I was like, that's cool. I kind of have it in the background. I told my husband, and what does he do? He goes and gets a license plate. One of our vehicles has Sitara, and I'm like, oh my God, like
that was fast.
I didn't even give it much. I was just like, said it to him. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I have kind of this other name that I relate to. And he goes down to the GMV and he gets a license plate that says Sitara on it. I'm like, okay. But then was the Akiva part. I don't know. I mean, if you look it up, it says like it's a Hebrew name and it's connected to a male energy. I'm like, well, I don't really relate to that. I just spent a lot of time in Kivas. Like part of my life journey was like going to national parks, especially in the Southwest. And I would just go on like 3-month road trips, and I would just go to national park to national park and to all these Native American ruins and all these incredible like sites, where it's just like, okay, my mind's being blown. Like this, as long as I can like figure out how to maintain this lifestyle, I'm a happy camper. And I lived on the road for probably 12 years on and off. Even raised my kids in a bus, vehicles. And it was always going to these parks. And I always felt such peace when I was in Akiva. So I was like, Akiva. So I was like, because it really represents a place of like being connected to the womb of the mother instead of the underworld hells that we've been dragged in. I felt a lot more peace with like always being thrown and thrust into the darkest of hells. When I went into the Kivas, I was like, oh, but it's the mother womb. It's the mother womb. The underworld and the hell part of it is where the patriarchal control, limits the female expression. And we all know, when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, they will literally take the depth of all that you are and who you truly are on a soul level, and they'll make it a problem. They'll say you're too sensitive. They'll literally create hell in your world because they don't appreciate that sacred energy. And if anything threw me into hell, not just these subtle, like, patriarchal remarks, but just that Saturn moon matrix of patriarchal control that is literally not just patriarchy. It hides or it cloaks this greater negative alien agenda, which is beyond gender. It's just literally needing to separate us and disconnect us so that they can feed. So I know that the long story, I didn't mean to overly explain. So the Akiva part is like Sitara, the Venus goes into the underworld. The archetype goes into the underworld and retrieves pieces of itself and then rises. But how can it do that if it's going to misinterpret the underworld for hell? It needs to remember it's the creative cauldron. It's the womb of the mother. And the way that it can rebirth is to nurture the seeds of one's higher intention and one's higher self. in order to, grow life again, instead of be trapped in the hell because a gatekeeper is like, shaming, like ridiculing you and like making you like seem like just some silly woman who's overly sensitive. It's like, so the Kali energy is like, I don't think so. I don't think so. And, yeah.
I love it.
So, but I didn't like think that like I would have a public social media account. I mean, it was just sort of like between me and myself. I was like, oh, that's cool. I do have another name, or I feel nameless. I feel like nothing. Like I embrace nothingness. But well, you gotta, I mean, just like when you look in nature, it's like we can call that a pine tree, we can call that a maple, but it doesn't need a name. It just is part of every, but for the sake of having people be able to identify, we call ourselves names. So
yeah, I think names are very important. I think I've studied names for years, and with each syllable and the meanings behind it, I mean, you're speaking that into existence over and over and over again. So I get what you're saying about how our DNA is so ancient that there's so many different connections to our very DNA, that we're all kinds of people in the skin, earth body. We're all just one anyway. So we can easily connect with whoever and get that download or understand things about that person, or even people who are still here in this dimension. But anyway, I would just like to remind people where they can find you and tell them about your website and the patron membership and all the different ways that they can find you before we get off of here.
Awesome. Well, I'm on Twitter still. I have my website, which I figure will stay around. It's cosmicgaia.org. If you look on the homepage, you'll see an event that I'm doing November 8th at 12 p.m. Pacific time for 3 hours. And it's going to go into great detail about this alchemical shift and this transformation process and all the proof surrounding it, that this is a cosmic and earthly event, especially based on the fact that the sun started to move through the 13th sign in 2010. And November 30th to December 17th, we're going to begin to move through that. It's between Scorpio and Sagittarius. So, there are things that we can't even put into words. We can look at the probabilities and maybe potential trajectories that are daunting. But if we really realize that the organic ascension timeline is fully on board and alive, then we'll be very reassured. So the presentation is very much about that and goes into a lot of details. 3 hours and it's constant replay. And cosmicgaia.org. And then David Rodriguez, have a Patreon channel. It comes with all these different options. We do interviews with really amazing guests every other Wednesday at 7:00 Mountain Time, and then we do a Q&A, and it's really great because it's like we're building community and feeling a sense of family. And it's not that expensive when you think about it, like, oh, less than $1 a day for some of the options and a couple bucks a day. It's like, maybe it's a better option than some of the choices we make when we go to the store. Unfortunately, not everything can be for free, but most of my content is free. And then I have a Cosmic Guy subscription. I do about 4 Zoom meetings a month, and it's very interactive. And I guess that's it in a nutshell. If you forget, though, cosmicguy.org, and you can access the Patreon subscription, but we also have our own website, darktolightshow.com.
And you know what, you guys, I'm going to put all of these links here in the post, so you're able to have all of that and not have to remember everything that she's saying, because it's a lot. And I want to make it clickable too, so it's really easy, so people could just like hit a button and go straight to it. I so much appreciate you, and do make sure to get on her newsletter. Get on my newsletter, because we don't know when censorship happens, and the best way to get in touch with either of us is to go to our websites and actually sign up for the newsletter, because I know that's how Laura was able to tell everybody what was going on with her when she made her pivot.
It's a free newsletter. You can access on my homepage.
Yes, and you can go to swiftfire.org, Swift as in quick, fire.org, and get on my newsletter. I'm also on YouTube and Twitter, all of that too. But and also check out my new book. Laura, do you have your new book with you? The book.
I have your book, My evolutionary healer. It's a collaboration, but I'd really like to interview you and talk about your book and your path and everything. So let's make sure that happens.
Okay.
But yeah, I have a bunch of books that I haven't published yet, and it's very frustrating.
I just got your book like 2 days ago, so it's next to my bed. Or I wish I'd had it on the thing.
I have a chapter in it with I think 18 other people, and it's really great. And it's a really great thing to have. Evolutionary healer. You can look it up on Amazon. I'm trying to publish my other ones, but I hope you will like do an interview with me soon.
Yeah,
you have an incredible path and story, and you sent me that book, and it's so freaking right on.
Well, it goes into
frequency, people. I mean, this is the frequency, and Donald Trump actually like holds, that. It doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. I mean, but
that's what he's doing, and there's a science to it. It doesn't have to be oogie boogie. I'm a geek. I'm a data person, and you can follow the steps in doing it. And then also I have. Did you get these in the mail? Did I send these to you? Okay, cool.
It's so sweet to send that to me. I remember, like, it took me a while to because I don't go to the post office much. So yeah. But then when I got it, I was like, because you were like, did you get it yet? I'm like, oh no, I gotta drive to the post office. And it was, there's so much amazingness about you. Like getting to know you more and more over time. I'm like, wow, and all that you do on the public level. Like you've been leading the charge for a long time.
I think that one day we're just going to have to do an interview on the backup story of how I even found you through your great grandfather, like when he poofed into my meeting in 2010. So that was like, still, I don't even know if you know the fullness of what happened and how I even connected with you in the first place, but you have been a major key, even though I freaking don't understand half the words that come out of your mouth.
Oh,
but no, I mean, it's like, because it's just a different language for me and it's a different genre of things, I don't discount it because I knew you as a person, and I know the undercurrent of everything, that every word you say is so stable and full and love and truth. And so the first couple times that I saw you, the analogies and the way you communicated when you weren't doing all the chart stuff, like just the regular, I was just like, oh my God, you're truly my favorite speaker. And when I saw you in Dallas, I was like, this woman, how did I not know her like this whole time? But but when you get on that astrology stuff, it does. That's not my world yet. I'm not saying I don't know or won't ever. But I think it's just some of the, anyway, it doesn't matter. I just love you.
I know.
And I might be jumping in on your class to just get a little more integrated in some of the language and the vocabulary. And some of the people here are, coming from my audience, and they're asking questions, and it's like, you know what, jump in. Like, who knows? These are all pieces, and that's why I interview so many different people from different places, because that's the whole thing. Is like, we're all different. And thank God we're different, because I could never do what you're doing.
I can never do what you're doing. We're coming from different angles and roles in order to meet in the center. And it's like, and it's perfect. It's perfect. That we have all
and then like other people are like, I just want to be a missionary in Africa or whatever. And I'm like, I'm so glad that you want to do that, because I've been to Africa a few times and I left. It's like, and for you want to be in the forest and like live, I love nature, and I also really like living by the beach in a condo. So it's like I love the mountains, and I'm from Montana, like literally up the road from you. So, but it's like I also just really love the beach and the waves and stuff. So that's what's so cool about all of us being different, is we can all learn from each other if we can come and have the courage to actually hear each other and listen and not look at anything else but integrity, love, fruit, and like, who cares, as long as their behavior is impeccable and integrity, and that's what matters. It's like, we don't have to agree on every single thing, and I'm not saying that you and I don't, but I'm talking about people who come and they want to fight on Facebook or whatever. It's like, you can't make me hate you. It's like they try to bait you.
Right?
They try to bait you into these arguments or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, you're kind of like what you said. It's like, I really feel sorry for you. Not like in a sad way, like I'm better or anything, but it's just like I
it's
really
you're
am
missing out.
worried. Yeah.
You're missing out. It's like,
And I can listen and I can still just keep going. And sometimes I do block if you're going to get mean and vicious and you're going to like talk bad to the people that are on my groups and stuff. Like I'm going to, nip that in the butt. But for the most part, a lot of people who are just questioning and they're honest and they're like truly like seeking, stay on, listen, like keep watching.
I know. People are like, why are you engaging them? They're trolls. I'm like, not everybody's a troll. And sometimes people are just feeling lost and confused. And I at least want to give it a chance. And then if that doesn't work and it gets worse, okay, yeah, then I'll block.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not the same person I was a decade ago. I'm not the same person I was like 48 hours ago, to be honest. Like every day, I mean, I'm evolving with each bit of source unwrapping, unveiling. Like Amazon Prime just like keeps downloading and these boxes just open. It's like, oh, now I know that, or oh, this connection, or and it's okay. And it's part of that is the intricate, weaving of all these collaborative people who have the focus of love, light, source, coming from all these major different backgrounds, all these different jobs, for the sole purpose of actually just encouraging and igniting others to truth and to love and to service. And I love that and appreciate about that. Yeah, I sensed that from the second I saw you and met with you, and it's anyway. And you're still an awesome person to me, and always will be. And I appreciate what you're doing for everyone. And I can wait, but I can't wait until you actually are working with Donald Trump and on that path of wherever that takes you. And I'll be rooting you on the whole way and being your biggest cheerleader.
Oh, well, you'd be right there with me, I would imagine.
Maybe we'll all be in
and him.
Maybe. Well, you have an awesome night. Thank you so much again for your time. Also, guys, I will post David's Facebook page in here too. He has a new Facebook page, so you guys can connect with him, so you guys can see all of their stuff that they do on Wednesdays. And you guys have a great night. Get out and vote. Tell other people to vote. Do post things, post the truth, be the truth, live the truth. Seek the truth, find the truth. Just keep on being truth. And I love you guys so much. We'll talk soon.
Love you so much. Really amazing to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for having me and for everybody that tuned in. And we're a team, and good things to come. It might be a little bit bumpy, but this is where we get to be like pushed into the need to open up the gateways to all the goodies that we're made of, that absolutely will know what to do. Our higher self and our soul knows exactly what to do in these times. Just keep trusting yourself. Keep breaking down the fear in order for you to access the greatness of all that you are, because there's nothing we can't handle. So
I told David the other day, whenever he was deplatformed and having his 24-hour low, or maybe it was more like 48 hours, I said, dude, champions are not born in the ring. They are made there. I was like, everyone get off your butts and go be God in action. Go do something. Do something. Make a phone call. Like, do an email. Post something. Go to the neighbor's house. Just be positive and go out there, and do not let them take you down. That's what they want. They want to live off your loosh. That's the only way they can survive. So just go be victorious, right?
Totally. Thank you so much.
All right. Talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.